Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Unfortunately, Neely just told you, but I will retell you. Neely can't be with us for all of the meeting this morning, but she's joining us by phone and perhaps visually for just a while. She may have to bump off. So she asked me to chair this meeting in her stead. Are there any objections? Hearing none, we will proceed with the meeting of the Personnel Committee of the U of L Athletics Association Board of Directors. I will now call the roll. I'm here. Neely?
Here.
Sheldon Bond? Absent. Jerry Bradley?
Here.
Andrew Grubb?
Here.
Dawn Heineken?
Here.
Sharon Moore?
Here.
Having determined a quorum is present, I would like to call this meeting to order. One reminder before we begin, the usual reminder, please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Our first item of business is the approval of the minutes of 18 October 2019. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Bradley.
Bradley moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Heineken?
It's Dawn. Yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries and the minutes stand approved. Our only item of business today is the evaluation of the athletic director and the associate athletic directors. I will be asking Vince to review with us his evaluations of his associate ADs, during which time the committee and other board members can ask questions and provide feedback. After this, Vince will present his self-assessment. Upon his conclusion, we will ask Vince to leave the room, technically, so we can further discuss his performance. Before we begin, Neely has asked me to share with you that in support of institutional control of athletics, several organizational changes have been made. First, athletics compliance now reports to the Vice President for Risk, Audit, and Compliance, Sandy Russell. Athletics Council now reports to the General Counsel, Tom Hoy. And as you already know, Vince reports directly to the President, to Neely, and his contract was amended by the Board of Trustees last April so that he receives his performance appraisal directly from the President, which is why the Personnel Committee's input is so important in informing Neely's evaluation of Vince. That being said, if there are no questions, Vince, you may begin.
Thank you, Lane. As noted, a little bit different, this year in terms of talking about all the associate ADs. As most of you know, I've got 11 direct reports that are associate or senior associate ADs, and then there's 2 other associate ADs that really funnel up through others in the organization. So there's 13 others on our what I would deem our senior staff, and the way we've handled this year's review is a bit different. We won't probably do this every year, but this year we did do a 360 review. So every associate AD was reviewed, obviously by myself, or input through questions anonymously asking comments at the end, but on a number of topics around the student athlete experience, the overall compliance, diversity, a number of topics. But and then I would go back and review those 360s with them. So the answers were, they could see my answers on how I rated them on a 1 to 7 scale. They could see how their peers and group aggregate, averaged how they reviewed them, as well as their direct reports. would come through and review them, and then they would do a self-review. And generally, having done a number of these over the years, I would say this globally about all of them, that you're really looking for consistency, particularly when it comes to reports and peers. I can say that, myself or self-evaluation is certainly discussed, but you don't want them to have lack of self-awareness where they give themselves a 7 and everybody else gives them a 4. That's certainly open to discussion. But what I tend to look for is where their peers and their direct reports have a similar view and that the numbers are fairly close. What that means is consistency. People know what to expect from them, whether they're both graded as 4s and we work on that, or they're both graded as 7s. But generally what you want and your team is consistency, that you know what to expect, that I would know what to expect from Elaine and Neely and vice versa, what your skill sets are. So we took each of these 360 reports, which they're cumbersome, so that's why they're not all displayed here, obviously. But, if we went through 10 pages or so of each, we'd be here all day. But what I would say is to give you more of an overview of the process, that at the end of those number of pages of questions where they were ranked on a variety of things, at the end it says each of those same groups, self, myself, their peers, and the reports would talk about areas they need to improve upon. And then on the flip side of it, things that they feel they're doing really well. And I went through that one myself. So there's one for me as well. And as I went through those, kind of one by one, we've all been through them, but certainly in the most recent days going through these, noting the things that stick out to me, educating them on what the report says to me and what it should tell them on their areas of focus, and the positives as well. And then at the end, the right ends are, if somebody says they poorly communicate detailed plans or whatever it might be, they don't deal well with conflict management, all those type of things that you see, and they're generally try to personalize some activity or plan or professional development around that for them. So, they certainly vary. Every discussion is different. And in terms of the post they hold, but I guess the one thing I would note in totality is we've had changes on our team, as you guys are aware, but the team's working amazingly well together. I mean, I can really say that we have an awesome team. The ones we've compiled and brought into the department, I've got 6 new ones that I deal with, and it's really worked out well. We have a great, all the cultural things we talked about, the buy-in on goals and values and how they apply those to decision-making is working well. I think the fun, nothing against our veteran leaders, as I would joke with, Marvin or Kenny or others, and we still talk about things they can do to make us better and focus on things. But, Amy Calabrese, one of our associate ADs, Christine Herring, and one of our associate ADs, Michael Dudas, some of the, I'll say, young and up-and-coming managers in our group too. It's amazing to look at where we were even a year ago and where they are now. Like the things we addressed with them specifically, and how they now have more of a voice at the table. And that's what, my expectation of them is to have that voice, to be, add that input. And I would say the same thing for Marvin, because when he speaks, everyone certainly listens. Marvin Mitchell, who's our associate AD at academics. But what's been interesting in the bonding of all this adversity that we've been through since I've been here, and it's unfortunately been fluid of issues, whether it be head coaching changes or NCAA or whatever the issues are, that the team's just gotten closer. And I think the most recent thing that was a great sign to me is that when this COVID thing hit and we came back from Greensboro in the men's basketball tournament, and we quickly, my mind quickly turned to, we got to look at our budget. We got to look at what's going on. We got to stop the expenses. This could be a long run. And everyone just jumped to it. Like there wasn't hesitation. We had difficult decisions to make on, as you all know, permanent reductions in our department, as well as furloughs, and certainly a number of cost reductions, including all these individuals, myself and our head coaches, taking 10% reductions for next year, and then some of us taking additional cuts related to performance bonuses and other things. But we just kept moving forward. And I told the team that nobody really paused, and that newbies on the team, if you will, like Pat Ivy, who came in, took over 4 areas for us, and nutrition, sports medicine, strength conditioning, and mental health, all very passionate areas, as Dr. Benz can tell you. And Pat came in, it was a new position, had to create that position to oversee all those areas related to the student athlete's mind and body. And it's amazing how quickly he rose up, got into that, because he's one that we're telling, hey, as part of these furloughs, about half your staff needs to go away, and he's trying to establish relationships with them. And but it went extremely well. And I think that's where, as I say, Pat coming along, Amy Shoemaker still being fairly new to the team over the last year and a half, all acclimated very quickly, and everyone became solution finders in the process. And I feel like it just brought our team together even more. And on the financial side of things, certainly Jeff Spelker took over where Kevin Miller left off. And Jeff, as we talk about, continue to grow that CFO mindset and look at things on the bigger picture, and on where we are, and thinking about guiding us through the year and continuing to gain trust and credibility with those associate ADs and those head coaches. Because we're so transparent now, we're opening up, and it sounds easy to go, well, yeah, you share everything now, everything's got to be great. Well, when people share, they become educated, but sometimes they take the definition of the numbers in their own manner, and we have to spend a lot of time educating on finances when you start literally opening up the books to every line item and with everyone. So it's been a great process, and I think that all these individuals, I'm certainly excited to work with. I've told them that, and selfishly, it's been great seeing what's happening in all their areas. Kenny with the broadcast center, that opened up on time and has done extremely well. Lottie, yesterday we got 4 more awards, honorable mention for marketing department and all of college athletics, and 3 individual awards we actually won. Related to fan engagement, student, activations and things like that. There are national awards that we won. So each of these areas we're excelling in, and certainly happy to share as much detail on where we're working on individual, improvement with each of them. But I would say that it's amazing where we are today, and that all that we've been through, and it's certainly far from normal over the last 2 years and 8 months for me, but it's been also very rewarding. And I think it's a reminder to me, honestly, when I started thinking about coming in, talking about evaluations of what these individuals and as a group we've accomplished, and when I sit back and think about it. So, I don't know, Elaine, if you want to go into some of the self-evaluations of what we've done as a group, but I'm happy to talk about that as well. We did have, I'll say this, when we got into the year, we did have some, goals that I kind of set out even for myself about where we should be. Community service is a big one for me. I think it balances out our student athletes when they're here, and I try to participate in it with them, as they know. And as most know, we got recognized as, we wanted to be in the top 5 in the NCAA and community service, and we're number 1. And I think that's, pretty cool. And we try to balance that with their expectations from, their academic activities as well as their athletic activities. On the GPA side, we were at 3.196, and our goal was to try to get them to 3.25, and we did that as well. We got up to 3.5 as overall on student athletes, and that puts us at the top of the ACC where we were before. And then the graduation success rate continues to climb. It was 86, and now we've moved it up to 91% for our student athletes, and I think that will continue to climb because of the emphasis we have on summer school, and the amount of support that we've increased, even winter aid if they want to take some classes even between in the winter session. So academically, we're as high as we've ever been. Community service, obviously, you can't get any higher. It's been a focus of ours over the last few years. In the Learfield Cup standings, which measures your athletic accomplishments, we had, I believe, my understanding from our group, we had our highest ranking ever. We were at number 8 when things shut down, and we had a preseason number 1 baseball team still to go, 2 top 10 basketballs, 2 top 10 swimmings, top 10 men's golf still to come, because we'd gone further than we'd ever gone in volleyball with an elite 8, field hockey with an elite 8, things we'd never accomplished. Historically, it put us in a position to have our highest ranking. And generally, we're trying to fight to get in the top 30. And honestly, that was a goal, to be in the top 30. And it looked as though we were going to fall in the top 10, for the first time. And then I know another key factor in here is fundraising. And as most know, we've set some records in that regard in terms of fundraising and what we've done over and beyond pledges for some of the fundraising for stadium and all these capital improvements that I've been fortunate to bring back in front of this committee and get completed. So, from that aspect, I was pretty pleased on where we are. Certainly, when I walked in the door, there was a lot of angst and hesitation, and I think we've had a good plan with Michael Dudas to how we've approached it, and we've really tried to manage donor intent on the way, not only that their money goes towards projects, but if it's unrestricted, how we spend money in the athletic department. And I think people are pretty clear about how prudent we are about a variety of things. And yet, we still have things going well on the fundraising side even today. And I would say, I think that's because the majority of our donors, some are on this call, recognize that we're not waiting for the NCAA's outcome on our process. We started our change in the implementation of the things we're doing today 2 years and 8 months ago. It was at that time certainly necessary and needed, and we've implemented those initiatives. So most of our donors that are close to us that we continue to communicate with understand that we've been doing this for a while now. We're not waiting to find out something to start changing how we're going to operate in the athletic department. So I think that's key. On an individual standpoint, I'm serving on more committees than ever in the community, and then in the university, I'm on the benefits and design committee. I'm on the retiree benefits as well, which is separate, the budget and finance, and as well as the cardinal principles, and then still serving on President Bendaputi's cabinet and executive cabinet. So, and then in the conference, I'm on the events committee. I'm on the budget and finance committee. I just got named to the name, image, and likeness committee, and last night was notified that as a nominee for chair of the ADs for the committee. So, which I take as a nice one, because that's voted upon by the other ADs to be nominated to chair our conference. So that's kind of a neat one. Other things that have been going on related to capital projects. I think most know that we continue to move forward, and that we had hired Populous, a third party, to come in and assess all of our facilities. We're near completion on all that. We'll have some really neat things to show you, where we'll have a master plan for years to come, because we're going to beat this COVID thing and get back to some normalcy. But we have some really neat ways to renovate and modify the facilities over time, and we'll share that in greater detail. The near-term ones that we had already gotten going was related to the Kiever Center, and then assisting the university on another dorm on Floyd Street, and then we had some other minor projects we were completing that most are aware of in the indoor golf and other areas. We had completed most of the program, but that master plan will come back. We'll present, and then you can see where we should consider improvements going forward. And in the near term, I think one of the things that we had laid out on the football stadium was related to spacing. And then we didn't know COVID was coming along, but I'm just telling you, as a former guy who walked around in the down below in the concourse area, that I always felt it was tight. That if somebody was in the concession line or the bathroom line, and on the other side at a kiosk getting something, there was no middle ground to get through them. So resetting the underneath of the stadium to broaden or widen the concourse. We were talking about adding gates and anyways, because of things were going on there and Wi-Fi and things like that, that I think are still going to be, if anything, they're more pressing once we get on stable ground to look at how we would do that because of what we're talking about related to COVID. Having more gates, being able to mitigate some of the stress, the entry gates, being able to mitigate some of the stress and close proximity of people on the concourse is safer, certainly safer related to what we're dealing with today, but just safer in general. All those type of things we'll bring forward to you. I think the other thing that, certainly proud of, we've done no level 1 or level 2s. Certainly on that's a goal we have all the time. Profitability, we wanted to, we certainly wanted to have a surplus. And those have been on our budget calls. You've heard that we're heading towards a profit of over $4 million in fiscal year 20. So at the end of June, really prudent management throughout the year, but also when the COVID hit, we were quick to shutter a number of expenses, even though our revenue coming from the NCAA distribution was reduced significantly from prior years. We were able to act on a number of variable expenses related to activities and others, and we're able to produce a profit that we're certainly going to need towards next year's budget, which we use on some debt and other debt service in other areas. But terrific outcome financially, and very thankful that the team did such a great job there. Off the field, you guys know you hadn't seen anything in the media related to student athletes. I'll knock on wood, but I haven't been woken up in the middle of the night in probably a couple of years, literally. I think our coaches are doing a great job. The type of individuals we've brought into the program, and when there are issues, we certainly haven't had the major ones, but any issues come about, I'm usually generally involved. They get to come to the principal's office and sit in my office and we talk about it. No matter the magnitude of the issue, I'm generally active on those things. And because I've got 5 kids from 16 to 25, I'm accustomed to the goofy stuff they do, and I did a couple of them myself. So I'm about education more than penalty when it comes to those things. I'm not saying that it doesn't have a play in it, but I want to make sure we're handling those situations appropriately and generally jump in. And then on the recruitment front, we really haven't had anybody new to the senior staff, but we did just recently hire upon Mark Crabtree's retirement coming up at the end of June. We've replaced him with Ryan Blagg, as most know, coming from Baylor to be our new men's golf coach. He's been in town with his wife and son Cooper, and has made an immediate impact. Been awesome, and he certainly fits the mode of the head coaches that we've hired over the last 2+ years. That is consistent personality and faith-based individual, great guy, and has a great reputation for recruiting and push on academics, and a player's coach, but obviously has to have some discipline in him too. So I just downloaded a significant amount of information. I don't want to overwhelm you, but that's how I think about where we are and where I am, and certainly ask for feedback at the end of all those evaluations. What can I do to make us better? What can I do to make you better? And let's focus on that as well, so that you're never too old to learn and get better. And I think most of us, I do a lot of education on the weekend with reading, but there's a lot of education to be learned from a lot of bright people, in particular the 13 that I deal with in our senior staff meetings. So with that, Elaine, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Vince. Are there any questions for Vince from any of you? Okay, Vince, would you please excuse yourself from the room while the committee discusses your evaluation?
Okay, I'll wait for Jake to send me a text to get back in.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, Elaine?
Yes, ma'am.
May I make a couple of comments before the committee begins its deliberation, and then I might have to jump off, and I will wait for your report at the end. I just wanted to add a couple of comments. You will clearly see your evaluation and your recommendation to me will be based on.
I think we lost her.
That he has. Can you hear me?
You're breaking up.
All right, let me try. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
All right, I'll take myself off of video. That might help. Just wanted to let you all know what an incredible asset Vince is to me as part of my senior leadership team. Very quickly, I know I've reminded you all, as president of the university, I have responsibility for the teaching mission, the research mission, the athletics, the whole health sciences campus that we now have, and of course, internal and external relations for the university. And one of the things that is unusual about Vince in a very, very good way is in most universities, ADs are relegated to you run the athletics well, make sure there are no problems, but they really have no real meaningful interaction with the rest of the campus community. And it's really a tribute both to the intelligence and talents that Vince has, but also his temperament and personality. Not everybody would fit in. He is an integral part of my senior leadership team on any decisions that come up. We've built up a culture where we have the head of our hospital system helping us think through our enrollment. And I hope you all appreciate, I just want to take a moment and point out the fact that I have asked Vince to serve on so many committees that are outside of athletics because he brings a good perspective. He truly cares about the bigger picture for the university. And to me, that is incredibly important. Vince will often talk about, and I love that, how one can quickly find oneself in either the entitlement mindset or a gratitude mindset. And I will say that Vince is without question someone who operates from a gratitude mindset and not an entitlement mindset. So I just wanted to add my perspective, if you will, on well beyond athletics. And that's not to take away at all his first and most important job is to make sure that our athletics is something that we are extremely proud of as a university. It's about 10% of our budget. But when you think about the outsized impact athletics has in terms of what people think of us, how it impacts us, I just have tremendous confidence in him as a leader in that. Obviously, I will leave it to you to look through each of the specifics, but I felt it was important to point out the impact he's having on athletics. Similarly, at the ACC level, working closely with all of the ACC presidents, I'm really proud of how much Vince is able to add to all of the other ADs, because they are usually, and we talk about it, Vince and I talk about it, many of them are so divorced from the rest of the university that they don't know what the university's plans are for when they will open, what they will do, what they're trying to do, whereas Vince can speak about all of that. So I just offer that, and with that, I will jump off the call. And Elaine, leave this in your wise and capable hands. And I appreciate everybody allowing me to do this by phone. If there are any questions for me, I'll wait, but if not, I will hang up.
Thank you, Neely. Any questions for Neely? Safe travels, Neely.
Thank you so much.
As the faculty athletics rep for 22 years, and also as the chair of the Committee on Academic Performance for the same number of years, I'd like to make a few observations about Vince's performance. From the point of view of a FAR who's been around that long, his performance has been exemplary. He has created meaningful interaction with many, many different constituencies. Certainly with student athletes, with his staff, with all of us, but also with the student body in general. When you look at the list of employee responsibilities that Jake sent out to you, I think as you go through, you will see that he has performed every one of them, all 11, incredibly well. Vince is hands-on. He communicates with the student athletes, and he has been particularly active during the COVID crisis, making sure that communication lines have been open. Some of the things you see that he does are on the news, and some Neely has just talked about. Some he mentioned, such as hiring a mental health expert and being in the forefront of promoting mental health among student athletes. But what you don't always see is how he interacts with his coaches. I attend a monthly compliance meeting. He has, of course, been engaged in some reorganization of coaching staff and of his staff in general, but he has organized compliance into pods of compliance members of his staff and coaches, and he has created any number of efficiencies, but he attends every single coach's meeting. He doesn't have to be there, but he is. In other words, he is everywhere at the same time. And I guess if I have to find fault with him, it's for not getting enough rest. His energy level is high, but I sometimes worry that he is everywhere at once. He has developed, as you know, a program in leadership development with the School of Business. And another thing you would not know is how well he has positioned us in the conference. But you may know that now because he just told you that he has been nominated as chair of the athletic director committee. The conference is in process of reorganization, restructure, and there will be a chair of each of the three major groups that represent the university. Those would be the presidents, the ADs, the SWAs, and the FARs in addition. And he has been nominated to represent the ADs. He also is thoughtful in all of those meetings. He doesn't hog the mic, but he always is respected when he does speak. He has also been able to position us politically, and by that I mean he knows the people in Frankfurt who are involved in name, image, and likeness, and has been able to make appropriate and meaningful contacts. So for all of these reasons, I would like to give him an A. I don't know about his 1 to 7 ranking for each of his staff members, but I think he has done just a magnificent job in the 2 years that he has been with us. And I think he's an incredibly well-rounded individual. So the business acumen, I think we all know, has been tested and attested to, as has his exercise in fiscal responsibility and the ability to promote any number of efficiencies. Again, with that said, I would welcome any comments, questions, or observations from members of the committee. And now from anyone who's listening, anyone who's joined the call.
Elaine, I'd just like to make a couple of comments, if it's okay.
This is Larry Benz. Yes, Larry.
Yeah, I certainly can't articulate to the extent that you have. So thank you for all of that. I concur. I think he's built a team. I think that's been the talent management side and his experience in doing that, I think, was much needed at this time. And I think he's done a great job with it. The only comment I would have, my understanding was, I guess I should have asked him, but he hired a senior associate to take this 11 or 13 direct reports and reduce it. I don't know if that has actually happened yet, but certainly I think we all would agree that's still, if he's overseeing 11 or 13 still, that's probably a little too many. And so I hope for his sake that that gets cut down, as we move forward.
Larry, there are two sides to that. On the one hand, can you hear me? Larry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. On the one hand, you want efficiency. On the other hand, you want to promote from within those who have merited being recognized. So it's a fine balance between having senior staff and senior positions. But I think that is something we can talk to him about. Thank you.
Elaine,
Yes.
this is Ralph Fitzpatrick on the call. I too wish to acknowledge Vince for an outstanding year, but there are two areas in particular that I want to highlight. Number one, I certainly commend Vince and his team for an outstanding year in their work dealing with community engagement. Vince has always been one of those individuals in the last couple of years he served in that as AD, that when called upon to assist with a particular project out in the community, Vince and his team is just readily and very quickly responding in the affirmative. A good example was this past year when we actually hosted our first annual Card to Come Together commitment out in community, where we had over 500 or so individuals committed to a day of service. And needless to say, Vince and the student athletes were right there, Johnny, on the spot, including our athletic director, Vince Tyree, with bags in hand saying, "What can I do?" So that's the spirit that I wish to acknowledge Vince today, for bringing that level of energy and effort to the table. Another area that I just want to call out is that I'm one of those who watch very closely what happens with the academic achievement of our athletes. And needless to say, I take a great deal of pride as a Louisville Cardinal when we talk about the fact that our graduation rates, our retention rates, if you will, are such that it warrants us recognition within our conference as well as our community. I tell you, it's something to sit on the stage at graduation and commencement and see those athletes walk across the stage with their sash and letting the world know that they are athletes, but they're also college graduates. So for those two reasons, I just wanted to say that I salute Vince and the team. Again, I think he's had a banner year on all fronts, but for those two two concerns, I wish to acknowledge him.
Thank you.
Elaine, if I could just say two.
Who's this?
This is Jerry.
Terry. No, Jerry.
Thank you, Elaine. Just wanted to add to the comments of the other speakers, but I've gotten to know Vince over the period of time that I've been on the ULAA board for 2 years now. And I think a sign of a great leader, and I think that Vince has shown so much, is the people he's hired. He's gone off and replaced a large number of coaches and folks in the athletics department over the last 2 years. And all of the thoughtfulness that he's put into the hiring as regards his analytics, the methodical way he's approached it, and he's approached it not only just on numbers, but on the fact that these people would be engaged in the community and would be a part of the team, and the culture that he's built has just been really remarkable. And the fact is that all the hires he's made have been really incredible. They've been superstars that he's brought in, and he's meshed them into a group of people who, as he speaks about in the team spirit, that they all seem to work with. And I think it's just a credit to his leadership style that he's able to do that. And I think that, for all the other reasons people have mentioned so eloquently, but I did want to bring in that fact that, you always know a good leader when he trains and brings in other good leaders, and he's done that. And I just think, we're just so lucky to have him.
Thank you, Jerry. Any other comments? Well, I will summarize for you. The Cardinal athletic team GPA was 3.507 for the 2020 spring semester. All 23 sports programs were above a 3.0 collective GPA for spring. 5 Louisville athletic teams, men's and women's basketball, women's cross country, women's golf, and volleyball, received public recognition from the NCAA for their academic performance program. We have 14 other teams that were perfect, had the perfect score for APR this year. And as Vince pointed out, we have a graduation percentage rate, the GPR, of 91%. And this is just terrific. And last but not least, although this has been mentioned several times, U of L won the 2019-20 NCAA Teamworks award competition for community service. This is the work of not just Vince, but the work of his entire team. But as Jerry just reminded you, the team tells you a lot about the leader. Any other comments or questions, observations?
Elaine, this is Sam.
Sam.
Yes. There hasn't been much said about the partnership that we have with the School of Business in ethical leadership. It's a very unique program that was a brainchild of Vince's. We're in our second year of it now. And I think if I had one new thing to focus on, that's the thing that really warms me to see the success that he's had and that the university has had with that program.
Yes, and thank you. I thought I mentioned that, but if I didn't, it deserved extra credit. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Is everybody well? Okay.
Yes.
If there are no other comments, I thank you. Our procedure today requires no formal action, but we will present our report to the full board at its 12 June meeting. And before that time, Neely will meet with Vince to discuss with him the committee's observations. She will also share our remarks with the Board of Trustees. And as a reminder, per his contract, Vince is eligible for a bonus at the discretion of the president. And should she choose, that would be based upon the following: the 4-year academic progress rate for all varsity sports, the average graduation rate, the cumulative GPA for all scholarship student athletes, the performance of the teams on the court or in the field, and the way in which the coaches and student athletes conduct themselves, and the way they represent the university, both on and off the field. Are there any other comments?
This is Steve Jones.
Yes, Steve Jones.
I just want to say to Vince, congratulations. He's done a great job. I'm glad that during this COVID issue that we have a business guy that understands fast action when it comes to handling of an absolutely unlimited loss of income, that he's been able to get his hands on it early. And I was impressed that in his comments last week that he was leading the ACC committees and helping other schools get their hands around their issues with finances, which are going to continue. We don't know for how long, but this could be going on. I'm just glad you're here, Vince. You're doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Vince.
Thank you.
Any other comments to Vince? Any other comments to the committee?
Elaine, one thing I'll make clear though, when I rejoined, you were talking about the bonus. The one thing I just want to clear for the group is that as part of what's going on, I'm foregoing my bonus this fiscal year and next, so there won't be a bonus paid.
Well, there might be a bonus ribbon. Can you accept a blue ribbon?
Maybe.
Okay. Is there any other business? Any other comment? Having no business, other business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved. This is Andrew.
Andrew Grubb, may I have a second?
Second.
Sharon Moore. All in favor? Please signify by saying aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you. Thank you, Elaine, for leading us today.
You are more than welcome. Bye-bye, everybody.
Would you like to hit the hang up button?
Mm.